Okay, so we're going to go over placing wing joints and then making them act like we think they should work. So I'm showing my wire mesh. I want to go to my top view. I'm going to hide the grid because I don't need that. And I'm going to place these joints appropriately. Go to my skeleton tool, joint tool. Yeah, so I'm just going to leave the default options. And to be totally honest, I've never even set any of these options ever in my entire rigging career. So it's not necessary. So I'm going to start by placing one up here. I'm going to place one. And you can see that I have the geometry modeled in my wing so that I feel like, at least, I haven't rigged this yet, but at least I feel like it's going to rig well. Okay, so there's my wing joints. Now they're too high, so I'll just slide them down. And I've tried to model my wing so it's perfectly flat, but it's not. So using this original joint, the parent joint, and this will be important. You'll do the same thing for legs. If your legs are not perfectly straight down, then you're going to have to do this same method. And you'll want to grab them at the hip, or in this case, I'm grabbing them at the shoulder, the bird's wing at the shoulder. And you'll want to rotate it into position. Okay, and I'm going to set it to world, my rotations to world. And I'm going to rotate those joints so they line up with the skin of the wing. Okay, now, because I had to do that, I don't want to use these joints anymore. It kind of ruined them. So, what we do is we come back here and we draw the joints again, except we have those joints as reference. Those joints are in the right place now, so we can use them as reference. So I'm going to hold down V this time so I can snap to those joints and use them. So we got to be really picky. Okay, so I got to reference these joints before I can use them. So create a new layer with these joints, and I'm set them to reference. That way I can't select them, I can just snap to them. So I'm going to snap to them with my joint tool. Okay. Now I can use those set joints. So I'm going to right click on my layer 1 that has my joints, I think. Oh, I have to finish up my tool probably. Okay, I right click on that layer, I'll select objects on this layer, and I'm going to delete those because I don't need them now, and I can just delete this layer. Okay, now, so here's my wing. The second set of joints I created is in the exact right location. Now, I might actually be a little bit more picky if I were going to use this long term, but we need to make this wing fold up real nice and easy. Okay, so just like on humans, the shoulder is a kind of a ball and socket joint. And so it can rotate around and do all kinds of stuff that the other joints that can't do, which are hinge joints. And so we're going to select each of these joints. in the arm, and with my rotate tool selected and set back to local, or maybe even gimbal. We'll use gimbal for now just to illustrate the point. If I rotate these in Y, they all rotate backwards, and that's not what we want. We want it to like scissor in as we do it. Okay? So what we need to do is we select this joint and change its orientation. So what we can do, probably the easiest way to do this, is go to the skeleton menu, joint orient option box, and then by default this is the setting. That's good. And all we need to do right now, so let me get to this okay, so right now so I'm trying to make it so you guys can see what's going on real easy. Okay, so right now we've got X pointing down the chain, and we got Y pointing up, and Z pointing forward. That's fine, but we need to point Y down. And in essence, after we've done that, we will have reversed it. So Y is our secondary axis. X is our primary. Let me review this real quick. X is primary. That means it's going to point to its child. The secondary axis is this one that Maya is going to concentrate on now after the primary one, and it's Y, and it's pointing it in the, so then this third option, the secondary axis world orientation, is telling it how to point. So we're telling it to point in the world Y positive direction. So we just need to change this to negative and click apply, making sure we don't have orient children on, because otherwise we'll do it to the children also, and that would be bad news. Okay, so I'll click orient, and that points down now. Okay, and I'll select, let me select this one, and I'll turn on its. Okay, so we can see this one points up, this one points down, and this one points up. Okay, so now if I were to select all three of these joints and rotate them in Y, I get a compression. So maybe I don't really want to select this shoulder joint. I just want to select these two joints. So let's see what happens if we do that. So that's a little better. So it still is not exactly what we want, but it's going to be easier for the animator to do it even at that. Then I could rotate that in, all right? So what we could do, if we wanted to make it really easy for the animator to fold this up, is we could drive the rotation of these two joints based off of the rotation of the shoulder joint. So as the shoulder comes in, the other two joints will also come in. And that will be done through set-driven keys, and I won't take you through that because we've already covered that in our other tutorial. So that's the method. Now, to continue though, we'd want to think about, is it really purposeful for the animator to be able to do that all in one sweeping move? Or should we just give them 3 different controls and allow them to select it and rotate them in? And that ultimately gives them more control. But it's slightly harder. And so that's something you have to decide as a rigger, probably in a conversation with your animator. So it's something you should decide together. Anyway, so that's how we would set up the bones in the wing.